We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some trade talk around a handful of teams, including the Canucks, the Oilers, and the Sabres. Plus, speaking of the Oilers, they are adding another player via free agency in Jack Roslovic. We had a huge signing in Vegas with the Jack Eichel long-term extension being completed earlier. Of course, before that, we had deals for Ekholm and Kyle Connor. Some other big news around the league as well, including several front office moves and some milestones achieved. We also got another longtime NHLer announcing his retirement. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we got lots to talk about. It's been a very busy day. We got our first night of NHL action in Canada for the Canadian teams. Of course, the Major League Baseball playoffs going on, as I've talked about here in recent days. For somebody like myself, it's like one of the best times of year. You got the hockey season starting up, baseball playoffs going on. Blue Jays did me proud tonight, knocking off the Yankees and a bullpen game 4 in Yankee Stadium. What a game. So proud of those boys and getting the job done. They were even watching the Blue Jays in Toronto and the Scotiabank Arena during the Habs Leafs game. They were showing highlights. They had a big, I think that's the loudest I've heard Leaf fans cheer, to be honest. Sometimes it's known as the library in that arena, not having a huge, just loud crowd at times, but yeah, they had a big "Let's Go Jays" chant going. It was quite a night, especially for Toronto sports, of course. With tonight being the opening night of Canadian NHL action in the 25-26 season, the Maple Leafs and Habs started the season off, which is quite often the case with both those franchises. The Maple Leafs pick up a 5-2 victory. It was a 3-2 game late. The Leafs added 2 empty netters, so it's a little closer than the score kind of makes it sound. If you didn't see, I didn't get to watch the whole game. Of course, I was watching the Jays a lot. I was flipping back and forth. Saw obviously most of the highlights and stuff, but for me, a couple of things that stuck out. One, on the first empty netter. It was a turnover from Dobson at the blue line. Puck's going down the other way. Matthews is rushing down, trying to get the empty netter. Patrick Kalani's trying to catch him. To be honest, I thought the back-checking effort from Dobson was pathetic. That was sad. I think it's fair to say Lane Hudson had a bit of a rough night for Montreal. I know he took some accountability in post-game interviews as well. Overall, though, good game, I think, from Bolduc, who got his first goal as a Hab. Carrier, I think, had a pretty solid, steady night. Really, in Toronto side, I thought Morgan Riley looked a little bit better. I know Riley had lost a few pounds, changed his diet, made a few changes in the offseason. He looks a little quicker, had a great game. So, obviously, things are going well for him. Nylander had a solid night. Matthews was pretty decent. So, all in all, it's only one game. Don't need to plan a parade just yet, of course, on either franchise. You don't need to be down and out, no matter the result or what side you're on in that contest. But yeah, it's a good game. There's some good positives and some good things to take away that they need to work on. But the good news is they still got 81 games left to work on those things. But pretty entertaining game overall. The Bruins also beat the Capitals on Washington home ice in their home opener tonight as well. The Bruins, though, still look like they're going to have trouble scoring quite a bit. I'm a little surprised they pulled out that win over Washington. I don't have a high expectation for Boston this year, so we'll see. And if you've been following along with my predictions, you would certainly know that for sure. I did post a video earlier on the channel today as well. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, do so if you haven't done so when you're done with this one. My 30 bold predictions for the NHL season, which talks about a variety of things, focusing on a lot of teams, players, and milestones, trades, things I think are going to happen throughout the year. Now, of course, as we mentioned, there's a video earlier with some of the big signings today. We know that Kyle Connor inked a long-term deal with the Jets, which is great for them. 8 times 12, lots of signing bonus, $41 million in signing bonus money, $55 million in salary, no move clause throughout. I think it's a great deal for the team. The players worth it. Great signing overall. Mattias Ekholm extends in Edmonton for 3 more years at $4 million. Really, I have no problem with that deal either. I think that's good for the Oilers. Ekholm has been a big piece of that blue line. Yes, he's getting older. Yes, he's had some injuries. I can understand some degree of concern or risk with that contract because of that, but even if his role is diminished and he has to play a smaller role, they move him down the lineup or whatever, like it's $4 million. With the way the cap's exploding, third pair defensemen are going to be making that here in short order, and he's playing top pair minutes most of the time. So all in all, I like that move too. And then, of course, after that news, because we did talk about that in a prior video, the Golden Knights, because I did say as well, there was a lot of speculation Jack Eichel was getting his contract today, and he did. 8 years with Vegas, $13.5 million, no trade clause, lots of bonus money as well. Eichel, I think, got a great deal. I liked his contract. Just a little bit less than Leon Draisaitl, but of course, no state tax will help them save a few dollars there. So to me, it's very, very comparable to the Leon Draisaitl deal. And Eichel's been tremendous for Vegas. I think he's only going to continue to do big things. He and Mitch Marner should be a dynamic duo for the next 8 years. So we'll see how things work out there. But overall, again, another contract that I think is more than fair. Like I said, we're seeing look, McDavid signs, 12.5. Eichel gets 13.5. Connor signs for 12. And then you get Kaprizov at 17. And I know he's a special player, and I know he means a lot to Minnesota, but man, is it just me, or is that contract looking like an overpayment big time already? We'll see. I hope it works out for Minnesota. They're just getting out of cap hell. They don't need to be going back into it already. But and I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player for them. I think he will. But just seeing all the other deals that appear to be, a little bit more team friendly. That's obviously not what Kaprizov was going to do in this case. It's just unfortunate for them to have to pay so much to keep his services. Now, another big milestone was achieved last night in the first game of the season for the Avalanche as they went into the Los Angeles Kings Arena to do the first game of the season where they beat the Kings. Nathan MacKinnon became the all-time leading scorer in Avalanche history, passing his former GM, now team president, Joe Sakic. Now, this does not include the stuff that carried over from the Quebec Nordiques. So this is only the records as an Avalanche from the time that they moved there. So Sakic's stats from the Nordiques are not included with that number. But since they've been in Colorado, MacKinnon is now the team's all-time leading scorer, which is quite remarkable considering especially his age. He'll have lots of time to add to that, and I'm sure he'll surpass Sakic's grand totals as well before he's all said and done anyway. A few other moves here today as well. The Leafs did recall Easton Cowan. He did not play in tonight's game. He was a healthy scratch, but he is on the roster. Jacob Quillen was sent down to make room. We also got a few other updates for some front office stuff or like some management things. The Maple Leafs announced a few things. Mark Giordano, of course, former NHL defenseman, recently retired, ended his career playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, has joined the team as well. We had heard this kind of during training camp, so they just finally announced it. I think he's already been kind of working on it officially, but he's joining the American Hockey League Toronto Marlies as a coaching advisor. So we'll see what that leads to. And they've also added a couple of former players as well, and Steven Reinpracht and Eric Lacroix, who joins the Leafs organization as pro scouts. So they will help looking, of course, at other NHL teams and will advise them when it comes to making trades, free agency signings, that type of stuff. And Alex Goligoski as well, another former NHLer, recently retired, is joining the Minnesota Wild in a player development role. So he will stick around being part of that. We also learned today that after a fairly lengthy career, Cam Atkinson is going to be hanging him up. He will be signing a one-day contract with where he started, the Columbus Blue Jackets. He'll be signing that contract. I believe it's going to be next week. He'll do a one-day deal and then retire as a member of that team. So, of course, that's only fitting. That's where he had his most success, or he spent the bulk of his career. Last couple of years haven't been great for Atkinson. Obviously, the body's kind of broken down and hasn't been able to be the player he once was, but still lots to be proud of. Had a very successful career. And after being unable to find work in the NHL, Kevin Labanc now has a new team, except he's gone to the KHL, joining the Shanghai Dragons, which is now coached by Gerard Gallant, former NHL head coach. So Labanc over to the Russian League, playing for Shanghai. Now, as I mentioned, we got news tonight that the Edmonton Oilers are adding another player, which should help solidify their top. Well, because there's been a lot of speculation. We're looking for a top six to round out that roster, trying to see what they can fit in. I'm not sure if he'll be a consistent top six, but it definitely makes the top nine better. Based on how he played last year, I think he should be able to play a lot. in a scoring role, but that's Jack Roslovic, the top unsigned free agent player who does not have a deal yet, but he is signing one tonight, and he is joining Edmonton. There was reports, like I said, in the last couple of days that the Oilers were still kind of scouring for something to try to add to this roster, and they may not want to wait too long to do it. And then, of course, we saw reports from Chris Johnson of TSN earlier today saying that he was still in somewhat of talks with Columbus and Minnesota. And then Elliot Friedman popped on to add that the Oilers, who we know had made an offer to Roslovic earlier in free agency, but ultimately he decided not to take it at the time, had re-engaged with his agent, and they were talking about a contract again, and they've got a deal. He's signing a 1-year contract with the Oilers at only $1.5 million is what it's believed to be. So clearly the Oilers are going to run into a little bit of a roster jam here, so they're going to have to create some space, but ultimately, that's not going to be too difficult to make. They probably will have to make a trade at some point, but for right now, they've got Matthias Janmark and Zach Hyman both on injured reserve. Hyman's on long-term injured reserve, so obviously they're not really forced to make a tough decision yet. They have players like an Isaac Howard, for example, that could be sent to the AHL if they need to free up some money. He doesn't need waivers or anything, brand new, rookie to the NHL. So they have options like that. But ultimately, adding Roslovic to that top 9 is going to create a little bit of a logjam. So we do expect there to be some Oilers moves, which are likely going to result in at least some sort of trade here sometime in the next few weeks, I would suggest. So they don't have to rush. They can wait until guys like Janmark and Hyman are healthy, which Hyman is getting closer, but he'll be out for a few weeks. So to start the year, but I mean, if you look at what that roster is going to look like, adding Roslovic into the top 9, you're going to have an overabundance of players, which are probably going to include guys like Curtis Lazar, Adam Henrique, to some degree Howard, because he was starting lower in the lineup. Even Janmark, when he comes back, it's hard to say exactly where he fits. So they're going to have 3 or 4 extra forwards. They're not going to be able to carry everybody on the roster. You can only carry 23 players, and of course within your cap limit. So I suspect we're going to see either demotions or a trade or something. I mean, if Savoy and Howard play well, they're not going to want to demote them, but for the short term, just to kind of create what they need, Howard might be the easy, logical choice to send down to Bakersfield. But we will see. I suspect, though, between those guys and even other guys like a Troy Stetcher or another defenseman that might not be an everyday player, might end up being a victim of roster crunch or a salary cap crunch here. So the Oilers adding Roslovic, who's a very talented guy, had 20 goals last year, certainly had expected to get more term and job security than what he ended up getting, but it's worked out well for Edmonton, and to get a pretty good player, good supporting cast, good secondary scoring guy at a very team-friendly deal, I think. Based on what he did last year, that's very team-friendly. Like I said, you score 20 goals, you can become a free agent. You've been bouncing around. You think you can get a little bit more job security than what he just got. But for whatever reason, it wasn't on the table for him this summer. So we will see where that goes. But should be, I mean, it's just a low-risk move. I mean, that's an easy contract to get out of or be buried if it didn't work out. I don't expect that to happen. Like I said, Roslovic's been a pretty decent offensive player here the past few years. So even if he plays on their third line, it still makes them deeper and a better team overall. And somebody else will likely end up losing their roster spot over that addition. But the Oilers ultimately will be a better team because of it. Now, as I mentioned as well, we know that the Vancouver Canucks are a team to watch as far as looking to make a move here early in the season. They still very much want to solidify that second line. They know that this is a critical season in kind of making sure that they have a bounce back year and get into the playoffs, and then a lot of things go right. The future of Quinn Hughes, I think, very much depends on it. They made a lot of moves in the offseason to try to make this team better. They kept a lot of pieces. They re-signed Demko. They brought back Besser. They did do a lot of it, which was internal. But if they have all these guys who've been playing together a while, kind of do the peak performance and play better and play to their potential, They should be a better team, really. I know we've heard some insiders like Frank Saravalli wonder how married they would be to some of their top prospects like Lekkerimäki or Tom Willander, and wondering if, especially if they don't have a amazing start to the season, if maybe while they still have high value, they could be a piece that they include to try to go after a top 6 centerman. Ideally, if they can improve that number 2 center spot behind Pettersson to be a much more productive player, somebody that they can trust and rely on more than Filipino, that would be a way to make the team deeper and stronger, and that seems to be the direction they're heading. So we will see just where that goes, and if one of those prospects might become a trade piece for them. We'll see. In Columbus, Yegor Chinakhov also will be a healthy scratch to open the season. So that kind of drama between him and the Blue Jackets kind of continue. We had heard through training camp that Chinakhov had talked to Evason. They had some conversations, understood each other better. Some thought that maybe miscommunication or maybe a little bit of a language barrier or issue that way might have been part of the problem last year, or Chinakhov not fully maybe understanding exactly expectations from the coach or how he wanted him to play or what have you, because he was certainly got the health bomb a few times down the stretch and wasn't real thrilled about it. Kind of wasn't happy with his role. So we kind of thought maybe they'd be starting off on a better foot, but here he is getting the health bomb right off the bat. So he never technically did rescind his trade request. We've heard some insiders say that this is still a possibility that they could look to move him. And I would think after going through training camp and not even getting a chance in the first game of the year, that I think it's fair to say that this coach does not see this player as a good fit for what they're trying to do in Columbus. And I would think the odds just skyrocketed of him getting traded sometime early on. So we'll see. But Chinakhov is definitely going to be a player to watch. As soon as you thought maybe they'd get a second chance and kind of change things, then here we are again. So I suspect he's not happy. Buffalo Sabres and Alex Tuch. We know that Tuch is very interested in remaining with the team. Of course, he's from that area. It's he was quite content to be traded there from Vegas during the big Eichel deal a couple of years ago. Alex Tuch was one of the few players, like I said, that was quite content. And, when you're being traded to Buffalo, a lot of people will be like, oh, man, I'm going to Buffalo. But, they've had a rough go, 14 years outside of the playoffs. But that's his hometown team. He was thrilled about it, was happy to put on that jersey and be a contributor. And at this point, he's quite interested and open to signing a long-term deal. The latest reports indicate there are still a big gap between the two sides, and that they're nowhere close to getting an extension done at this point. Things can change quickly, but right now, not so much. So some speculation, is he a player that if the Sabres don't have a great start to the year, we know they're going to have a tough time getting into the playoffs. Some projection models seem to love this team and think they're going to be able to do better than last year and be a top 3-4 team in the Atlantic and get into the playoffs. Whereas there's a lot of models still have them near the bottom couple teams of the division and, having another dreadful year missing the playoffs. So we'll see who ends up being right in the long run. But regardless, from an asset management standpoint and an underachieving team, if they don't start off real great and talks don't pick up and close the gap here on a Tuch extension, you have to think that they're going to start to get calls about this guy, and the possibility does exist that they may have to go in a different direction. So, again, another interesting player to watch to see how things unfold with the Sabres season, and if Tuch will indeed get this figured out, or if he could end up becoming a higher profile player who could be looking at a trade. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.